Everyone, welcome to another edition of the Final Down NFL podcast. With me, Jim, Finn, Denver Dave, and Punk Raider. We're here to talk about NFL, and boys, are you feeling better than I am?
I'm loving life, mate.
Not
As
really.
of Monday,
I'm still trying to get rid of this cold.
I'd lost my voice on Monday, but unfortunately for you lot, it's back with a vengeance. I literally could not speak at all. It was glorious for everyone around me until I got it back.
Yeah, I've got a bad old cold. So apologies to anyone that's listening to me now compared to the end of this podcast. It could be quite different.
If it makes you feel any better, Jim, you look worse than you sound.
Thanks, man. That makes me feel much better. We're here to do the... Yeah, thank you. We're here to do the Week 12 review. We start, as always, and unfortunately in this case, with the Thursday night game, and that was the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Cleveland Browns. F***ing snow games. Nothing stopping the curse of the Steelers playing down to a terrible team. No. Despite the blizzard, in the second half, both teams were insisting on throwing the ball rather than running it. Despite the Steelers turning the Browns over 3 times, they only led the game once by 1 point. And when the game was on the line, the Browns found a way to get it done. The final score here was the Steelers 19, Browns 24.
And I'm going to sit back and relax on this one.
There's no relaxing on this one, mate.
Oh, there is for me. I'm sitting very comfortably right now.
Yeah.
How are you sitting, Jim?
Cold.
I've got a couple of big problems with this game. I think the Steelers didn't help themselves in the final play. I think there was one point when a timeout was called, which effectively meant, and I might get it a bit screwed up. I did write it down, but I can't find my note. What I put it now because I wanted to say it more eloquently than I'm about to. But basically, there was a needless timeout that was called during the Browns' last play, which meant that in the final play for the Steelers, basically they couldn't call a timeout. They only had one timeout going into the final series, which massively negated the playbook and opened up the field for the defense. And it just meant that everything was so much harder in that final series, and it was down to poor play calling or poor whoever calls the timeouts on offense, whether or not it's head coach, whether or not it's offensive coordinator. I don't know with the Steelers who does call them and not, whether it's Tomlin or not. But the fact is, this isn't what we're used to seeing from the Steelers. You're used to seeing things done correctly. This is what you expect to see from the Browns or other such notorious teams. So it felt very weird. But there was also, in the very last play as well, which I noticed was there was essentially a Hail Mary. Now, NFL regulations say you have to keep 5 offensive linemen there behind the line of scrimmage when the ball's thrown, or at least behind the line of scrimmage unless he leads the box. But you kept 5 offensive linemen against 4 people blocking and the running back. And when he threw it down, it's actually 4 receivers against 7 backs. Throw your running back down there, or take your running back out of the game completely and put another wide receiver in there, and it becomes 5 against 7. Stupid things like that you don't expect the Steelers to be doing. And I think it was just the weather didn't help. And I think some of the things that...
The weather was the same for both teams. You can't...
Agreed. But under no circumstances was the right thing done at the right time, which is what we're so used to seeing the Steelers do. But keeping a running back to defend a 4-man rush when you've got 5 men already there, I'm sorry, that's just nonsensical. It's a low volume, low percentage throw anyway. Stick as many men down there as you can.
There was a few weird penalties accepted as well by the Steelers. So I think it was in the drive before the final Browns drive where they scored.
That was it. They accepted a penalty and then called the timeout directly afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. On 3rd and 7. Accepted a penalty to make it 3rd and 7 rather than 4th and 2.
Yeah.
But then you would expect the Steelers to back the defense to stop the Browns getting those 2 yards. So there was a few weird and wonderful things happening with the Steelers. Now, the reason you lot were laughing at me on the last picks pod was because I'd picked the Browns, but the reason for that is because they'd come off that battering game against the Ravens and it was a short week. So I don't know whether or not if you'd both had full weeks to prepare, this would have made a huge difference or not, or whether the thinking would have been clearer. But there were just some very Steeler-like, uncharacteristic mistakes, and most of it wasn't necessarily on the field. It was more to do with the coaching and the game management. On the flip side, though, Jameis is now 100% in snow games. So, anytime he's playing in snow, that's it. He's the pick.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to getting them back in a couple of weeks' time to our place. As you said, it was a short week. We'd had to concentrate on the Ravens. And it feels like a typical Steelers game in the season where we lose to these stupid teams that we should be beating easily.
But every team who's half decent says that, though.
Well, yeah, but no, I don't know.
I think they do. Every team who's half decent says, "Oh, we always play down to the opposition," when because they're not used to, but often they see a team who's not as good as them beat them. Some credit, a lot of credit does have to go to
a lot of credit. Confidence, a lot
does have to go to Cleveland in this game.
No, well, they got the drive at the end, and they managed to thread the needle and get the touchdown. There's nothing to take away from what they did. It was some very weird things going on for the Steelers. Justin Fields, I think, had about 5 snaps in the game, but they were going to bring him in at random times. It wasn't like a red zone time where, okay, we know that Russell kind of struggles in the red zone. Let's bring in Justin and punch this in. It's in the snow. We've got an extra runner if we've got Justin Fields there. Let's go and pick up some extra downs. Let's keep moving the chains. They seem to have an idea that maybe we'll start using him, but far too sparingly. I think this is the kind of game that really Justin Fields would have really shined in if he had a proper few series to play with it, rather than just coming in for one play and then being pulled back out again. So
I think what probably didn't help next week. I think what probably didn't help is the fact that the weather started okay, and then the snow came down halfway through. So it's kind of like, do you really want to adjust and put another QB in, or do you maybe stick him in for a couple of plays and see how it goes? The thing I'd say is the Saints use Taysom Hill to perfection. They bring him in the right scenarios and use him in the right way. Steelers haven't done that yet, and that might just be down to the fact that they haven't had to do it, and it's not something they're used to doing. In my opinion, take Wilson out, throw him on the scrap heap, and leave Fields in there 100% of the time, because I don't understand why you're using the better quarterback as a gadget man. It's nothing to do with feelings. I think Fields is the better quarterback. Simple as that.
I agree. I'm looking forward to Wilson being on the Giants next season. I'll take Justin Fields next year. You are wanting Justin Fields. So there we go.
Was that good enough for you, Finn? You sit back. Were you entertained?
I was expecting a little bit more from Jim, to be honest. I'm a little bit.
Is what it is. What it is. There's nothing I can do about it.
I thought there'd be a few more tears. He's taken the high ground, which is really disappointing, actually.
No. We're still in charge of the AFC North, mate. Don't worry. So let's move on to Sunday. Let's move on.
I'm back onto the series for 1 second. No. Am I right in saying that that's only your second divisional game of the season?
Yes.
So all the AFC North ones are right at the back end of the season. So
you've got the Bengals, then the Browns. So they're all coming in thick and fast, basically.
So this is literally the business end of the season for you guys. Then everything you've done up until now has basically been pre-season. This is where the serious bit starts.
I don't know if you call it pre-season, I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah. Anyway, on to Sunday. And I'm going to pick the Cowboys at the Commanders as the first one. Wow, this thing escalated quickly in the fourth quarter. I mean, it really got out of hand. There were 12 drives in there, 5 of them touchdowns as stupidity took hold. And that stupidity was pretty squarely with the Commanders' special teams. They missed a field goal, missed 2 extra points, allowed Cavonte Turpin to muff a kickoff return, recover and teleport to spin his way to a 99-yard score. Then when Jaden and Terry McLaurin got the Commanders back to a 1-point game, the onside kick was returned for another touchdown by the Cowboys. That's the 3rd loss in a row for Washington. Final score, Dallas 34, Commanders 26.
One thing on the commentators, how dare the commentators say the guy who intercepted the onside kick should take a knee? No, run it in. It might be the only time
he gets the ball to do it.
No, nonsense. Run it in.
I see it from both points of view. I mean, in theory, just go down. The way this game got insane in the last 3-4 minutes was just off the chart. But I do agree in some regard in that, just go down. Clock runs out, game's won, thank you very much, especially with what had been happening for the previous 2.5 minutes. But you're right. How often does a special teams guy get to return an onside kick when he's in there as a blocker? And fair play to him.
Yeah, if you're playing in the center on an onside kick on special teams, you're not trusted to get the ball. You're there just to destroy other human beings.
You're not part of the hands unit, are you? No. Let's be honest. Yeah, no, this was a nuts game. In fact, there's quite a few games here that clearly started on the Thanksgiving beers early. I mean, we'll get to all of them, but I have to make a bit of a public service announcement in that I've had many messages from many Commander fans over the last few days, begging me to jump off the Commander's bandwagon. So in order not to derail their entire season, I shall do exactly that, and I'm officially no longer a Commanders fan.
It might be too late,
but you do have to announce another team next season. You do have to announce another team next week.
Well, I'd just go back to the Broncos.
No.
Yes,
that's a good idea.
Derail the donkeys.
I do have one other
thing
maybe. I do have one other thing to get you off the hook ever so slightly, by the way. It was pointed out to me during the week that it may not necessarily be because of you. A few weeks back, I made the comment that it doesn't really matter what Washington do in the regular season now because we expect them to be a playoff team, and it kind of just is irrelevant. It's now based purely on what they do in the off season, and they've not won a game since then. So yeah, I think between us.
We've properly managed to put the hex on them.
Ruin their season.
You two literally have doubled down on the curse. Yeah, congratulations.
Hey, Dallas were not good. This is the thing that drives me insane with this game. Is Dallas were not good.
No.
They were not good on offense. They were absolutely dreadful on defense. But somehow they managed to. I'm still not sure how they did it. I need to go back and watch the whole game again, but.
I don't think that will clear anything up.
I don't know, man.
It's just pure chaos.
I mean, you look at that McLaurin. I mean, I'll talk about it in depth later, but that McLaurin touchdown. Was there anyone playing defense? Because
not that I saw.
It was just a little bit, the whole wide open field. It was.
It looked to me.
It was a mad game.
It looked to me as though the Cowboys defense was auditioning for the flag football in the Olympics because they weren't trying to get near him to tackle him. It was almost like they were looking for little strips that were sticking off his arse.
I think you're right.
And you have to give props to Devontae Turpin. I think it's Devontae. I don't know what his first name is. Cavante. It's close, not bad. NFC Special Teams Player of the Week because he was solid all the way throughout the game, and the return was great as well. So yeah, well done to him.
I've never seen. Yeah, I mean that kind of spin move is very rare. Where you plant your leg and then just whoop, back the other way.
All the time on Madden.
I saw.
It is very much a Madden play.
Yeah,
I saw Alan Hutton do that for Villa.
Football analogy.
To try and get out of a slide tackle when someone, I think it was Phil Barsley was going to destroy him, but that was purely for self-preservation.
And the onside kick, I've never seen an onside kick returned for a touchdown. I don't think. I'm struggling to remember.
With an onside kick, you just fall on top of it.
Well, you're supposed to. Yeah, they did allow the.
Whereas that one seemed to bounce directly into his hands. It was almost like he didn't know what to do because it had hit his hands. He was almost ready to fall on the floor, and then when it hit his hands, he was like, "Oh, hang on! Oh no, I'm going to run."
It was too straight. It was too close to the kicker. It was too parallel with the kicker, wasn't it? It wasn't to a corner. It was like straight forwards, and so there was no one but the kicker in the way, and that's never going to stop.
No,
that's a green light basically.
Kicking in the opposite way.
Nuts game, absolutely nuts.
Crazy. I want to go on to the next game. Then is the Vikings at the Bears. How many ways can the Bears lose games this season? We've had Hail Marys, blocked field goals, and now what happened here? Chicago were down by 14 points with 12 minutes left in the game. Vikings have scored touchdowns with Jalen Naylor, Aaron Jones, and Jordan Addison. But the Bears are actually playing better than their record. And Caleb Williams hit DJ Moore, then Keenan Allen for scores. The 2-point conversion was converted, and then they recovered the onside kick to kick a game-tying field goal and take it to overtime. So, of course, the Bears win the coin toss and get a chance to end the game. But they will blow the game on Caleb taking a 12-yard sack rather than throwing the ball away. Eberflus allows a delay of game on the next snap to compound the issue, and the Bears have to punt away their chance to win. It's tough being up in Chicago. Final score after overtime is the Vikings 30, Bears 27.
Bears down to self-destruct, don't they?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Telling me that Caleb's a great quarterback, but I'm not seeing it.
You're not watching the game then?
The decision making, no, he's making the odd throw, but he's doing no more than Anthony Richardson's doing, and he's just hitting the odd throw and making the odd play, but the decision making on the consistency level is all over the place. Now it's taking that sack. There's no way on this planet he should be taking that sack, even if he's just chucking the ball away. It's I don't get the Bears. I just don't get them at all because they can play well in fits and spurts, but then they're just equally as capable of just being absolute garbage. And I don't see that anything that all right, Caleb might turn into a decent quarterback, but I just don't see it at the minute at all.
Their offensive line is garbage. If you look at the other rookies, so Bo Nix's offensive line is very good. The Washington offensive line is very good. And, Caleb Williams is a very talented quarterback, but quite simply, he is not able to play the same kind of ball he was playing at USC. And he doesn't have a run game really to help him out either. And to be fair, the run game doesn't have an offensive line to help them out either. I think they just should, in all honesty, the next draft, just pick 7 linemen.
I mean, don't get me wrong.
Just hope you get 3 of them right.
Yeah, the Bears were good in the second half. Whatever they said at halftime, they came out there, raised that 14-point deficit. The defense tightened up, didn't let the Vikings, score too regularly. I don't know, man. There's something about the Bears. I just don't get it. And maybe it's the coaching. Maybe it's the way they're going out and playing. But
it must just be
definitely a disconnect for me between what I'm being told about the Bears and what I'm actually seeing.
There must be a mental block somehow because we've seen and we've said, over the past few weeks is they have moments where you look at them and you watch them and you go, actually, they've moved the ball quite efficiently there. Chains kept moving. They're in the red zone. Bang, they've put up a score. And you go, all right, that's how you play football. Keep it balanced. But yeah, you look in the same game, but it will look like a completely different game because all of a sudden, Williams can't find anyone. There's no receivers or the passes aren't there or he's getting sacked. And you just go, how is there such a big disconnect? And then they pull it together. They get back into a game that they look down and out to. And then it seems like they waste all of their energy getting themselves back into a game and they can't then deliver once they've clawed back into it. So I think there has to be some sort of mental element of seeing out games.
I agree. I mean, the best game I've seen the Bears play this season was at Wembley when they destroyed the Jags. And even then, it took a quarter and a bit for them to come to life and for Caleb to do anything at all. So I don't know if it's the initial game planning, that scripted 15, 20 plays or whatever it may be that just aren't working for them. And so they're starting off slowly and having to claw their way back in, or whether it's just, I don't know. They're just a strange team to me and I don't quite understand them. But there's definitely some kind of mental block there. And definitely whatever's going on in the coach's head is not being replicated on the field.
Maybe it is. Maybe that's the problem.
maybe.
Matt Eberflus is not a great head coach. All right. Called it at the time when he got hired. And it's not the right person to be mentoring a clearly talented quarterback. I think that I don't have the same concerns that you do, Punk, because I actually watch him and think he's making throws that very few quarterbacks can actually make. His decision making is getting better. They have kind of turned a bit of a corner. There is like I said, we went to overtime in this game. They could have won this game. There was one dumb play where he took a sack when he shouldn't have done, and then they end up punting and lose the game. But the Vikings weren't brilliant in this game.
You say that about the passing, but then going back, Jamarcus Russell could make all the throws.
He just never.
No. But what I'm saying is, at this point in his career, he can go one or two ways. He's either going to get it, in which case, brilliant. He's going to be a great quarterback for the next 10 years. You could say the same about Anthony Richardson.
I do.
Or he's just going to end up completely on the scrap heap and ending up in Pittsburgh like Justin Fields.
Well, we'll revere him as well. It's fine. We can do that to him. But the real problem for the Bears is that their remaining schedule is brutal.
Yeah.
I mean, they're unlikely to win another game this season. The lineup they've got.
You said that about the Broncos in week 2, though, to be fair. You genuinely did.
Every year about the Broncos.
I don't know where another win's going to come from. And then we won 5 on the bounce.
Anyway, so that's the Bears for now. Let's move on and let's do the Titans at the Texans. Will Levis finally got a win for the Tennessee Titans without any other quarterback bailing him out, at least on the Titans side of the field. We're seeing a full-blown sophomore slump from CJ Stroud. Yes, the O-line isn't great at all, but it wasn't brilliant last year, and he was still accurate. The accuracy has dipped badly, and if it wasn't for an improved Houston defense, this could have been really ugly. If we want to talk about poor O-lines, Levis got sacked 8 times in this game, but he had 2 big touchdown passes to Nick Westbrook-Ikhine and Chig Okonkwo. I mean, there was a fumble and a pick 6 in there as well, but lucky for the Titans, it didn't lose in the game. The final score was the Titans 32, Texans 27.
Yeah, I think, to be perfectly honest, if you look back at the Stefon Diggs signing, it was completely unnecessary. One thing that CJ Orlovsky needs is an offensive line. He doesn't need another receiver. They've already got Tank Dell. They've already got Nico Collins. Robert Woods is still in there, so they've got and they've still got Dalton Schultz as their tight end as well. So he's got talented receivers. He needs another lineman because their line is not good enough. Now it's easy to say, okay, the Titans did concede more sacks in this game. That's simply because the Texans have a better pass rush. That's the only reason. If the Texans are serious about challenging, they need to improve that offensive line because CJ Orlovsky cannot do it on himself.
Don't call him CJ Orlovsky. All right, that's not fair.
I absolutely am. For
that's
this
not
week
fair.
At least, it is fair. Punk, you are the arbitrator of this. Is it fair?
Orlovsky never looks as good as CJ Stroud in his first season.
Orlovsky's one complete extreme on the scale. So I don't know if we can quite go that far, but
I think we can. Finn, you agree with me, don't you? See, Finn agrees.
Yeah, whatever.
Always rely on Finn.
The thing for me that everyone's forgetting about in this game, talking about the quarterbacks, is that Joe Mixon ran for 22 yards.
Yeah.
Okay? The Titans defense bottled up, probably along with Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry, the third best running back there's been in the NFL this season. So, I think although we can say about the Texans, I think we have to give a bit of credit to the Titans. And the fact that Will Levis is getting smacked into the face 8 times and still getting up and throwing for 280 yards and a couple of touchdowns. I think the Titans played well. I think the Titans are turning into. They kind of remind me of a lesser version of the Philly Eagles in that they've suddenly, since their bye week, started to become a lot tougher to beat and putting more points on the board and in theory giving themselves better chances to win games. It's just the difference with the Titans is they don't have that quality wide receiver and in their defense that really kind of sets them apart. But I don't know, man. Maybe I'm just trying to be too nice to them, but I feel like the Titans need a bit more credit in this game rather than the Texans so much of a bashing.
No, but we think the Texans are better than this. Texans were 3 of 13 on third down, by the way, and 11 accepted penalties. I mean, that's Baltimore Ravens level. It is not good enough. I mean, let's be honest. Both of these two teams combined were on third down were 7 of 27. So it was not a game of expertise on third down. But the main thing to say, I always bang on about third down. Failure on third down is often failure on first and second down. Yeah. So, and that was the case in this game. Shout out to Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, by the way. That boy only runs in touchdowns over 50 yards. That's what he specializes in. So, yeah, well done to him. Maybe the Steelers should have had him on the last play. Who knows?
Shout out to T'Vondre Sweat as well, my boy. I don't know if you saw some of the plays he was making, but wow.
You've got an awful lot of boys, Jim.
Well, it does help. I've got a stable of boys over there.
Rate.
They're my boys.
If you take everyone, then you can always use it, can't you?
T'Vondre Sweat is a unit. He's an absolute beast.
Let's move on. Let's do the Broncos at the Raiders. I've got insert game review here. Honestly, boys, bail me out on this one because I just couldn't find the strength to review what this was.
Wow.
It's fairly simple. The
final score: Broncos 29, Raiders 19.
For me, this is fairly simple. It's the Broncos in a competent offense, playing well against a fairly good and well-playing Raiders defense, and then a Broncos defense that probably was a little bit under par, playing against the Raiders offense, just hasn't got a clue what it's doing and might as well not be on the field. So, it's one of those. For me, it's just one of those games, that that we go into hoping to win, but didn't really have any expectation of it. It's the first Broncos win in, 9 games, bar the one earlier this season.
So
second in 9. It's the first.
Wait,
it's
what?
the first win you've had at our place.
Hang on, wait.
It's the first win. It's the first win we've had against the Raiders in 3 weeks.
I think it's the first win you've had at our place in 9 games.
Yeah.
So,
that makes more sense.
So
I think we do minutes
4 years
between games.
So I look, we know the Raiders are bad. We know. I mean, I suppose the one thing that creates even more issue for us now is that Gardner Minshew's now broken his collarbone, so he's out for the rest of the season.
I don't think that's a bad thing.
Well, no, I don't. Apart from the fact that we don't have a quarterback because Aidan O'Connell.
Gardner Minshew.
Aidan O'Connell has literally. Well, no, we have Ridder, don't we? Desmond Ridder.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
So
he came
we
in.
don't have a quarterback. Well, we do because Aidan O'Connell's going to come back this week and play.
Yes. Yeah.
And we'll see whether or not he can stand up to it. Now,
I think you should play Ridder.
Honestly, I think if the idea is to tank, then everything I'm reading, I'm not convinced that
suck for Shedeur.
But I'm not even convinced that Shedeur is a top 3 pick in the draft in theory. So
Dave's a Buffs fan.
Maybe we should go more with I don't know, a Travis Hunter or something and pick someone up later or in free agency or something. I don't know. Anyway, look, the Broncos are a better team than us at the minute. I'll hold my hands up. Congratulations, Dave. You've done a sweep.
The Broncos missed Zach Allen enormously, and he should be a Pro Bowler at the end of the season. Not Pro Bowler, he should be a first-team All-Pro because he has been absolutely incredible this year. On Shedeur Sanders, I am a Buffs fan. I watch him every single week. He's a fantastic college quarterback, but there's a lot of noise, and if that carries through to the NFL, it may not be good news. So,
exactly,
buyer beware.
And let's be honest, with his dad in the room as well, it's gonna create an awful lot of noise that probably isn't. Look, the Raiders love a bit of noise.
But at the same time, one thing I would say is he does get bum rushed on every single play, every play. So the Buffs' offensive line is diabolical. It honestly is awful. So he knows how to play. Yeah, exactly.
Our offensive line isn't terrible. It's just the quarterback and the fact we've got no running backs and
ask Gardner Minshew's collarbone how good that O-line is.
Well, yeah, but Gardner Minshew.
No, on that particular play, he got outside the box.
Was outside the box.
I'm only joking.
Trying to take hits, but
to be fair though, Bo Nix and Gardner Minshew had 25 completions on 42 attempts, so exactly the same accuracy level between those two.
Well done, Jim.
Well, just jumped off the page when I looked at it.
Listen, man, there's one reason why there's a reason why he's being talked about as offensive rookie of the year, and it's not purely for lip syncing. No, by a lot of people that you respect as well.
He's no
we'll see. He's no. But also, I'm surprised, Punk, you didn't even mention the fact that both Nate Hobbs and Jacorian Bennett, your 2 starting cornerbacks, were out. No Alex Mattison as well. You were hobbled.
That's what I'm saying, though. The defense is playing well. The defense is actually doing bits and pieces, and the problem is this game was close all the way up until the fourth quarter, and it was still in the balance. It was just the offense did its usual thing of in the bed, and you can't recover from that. You can't put our defense out. Our defense can't do any more. It's getting the ball back. It's getting teams off the field, and then 3 minutes later they're back on it again.
That Diablo kid was good.
Divine Diablo is one of those really frustrating linebackers in that he'll have 2 or 3 great games every season. He'll have 2 or 3 that he's kind of average and you kind of think, yeah, there's something there. And then he'll have 6 or 7 where you think, why are you even playing in the NFL? So he's still young. He's still quite young. He's only on his 3rd year now. But, he's not really had a huge amount to learn from. Spillane, the other linebacker,
he's a dirty bastard.
He's looking good, but that's why we like him. That's why we like him. You've got to have a bit of grit in your defense.
He fits the Raiders so well,
and Max just takes all the plaudits because
Spillane, he loves a late hit.
Yeah, absolutely. He does.
We won't look at his history of teams. Let's move on to the next game. I can't talk about the bloody Raiders and Broncos anymore. Please.
You can.
No, we will not. 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 We will not.
Special.
Don't want to lose subscribers. So next up, we've got the Eagles at the Rams, and the season-long torture of John Mara continues as he gets to watch his former favourite running back dominate every game for his bitter rivals. He had another highlight reel touchdown in the first play of the second half, Landon Dickerson clearing the path for a 70-yard streak to put the game to bed before the Rams could blink. There were still good displays from Stafford, Nakua, Kyren Williams, and Cooper Kupp, but the Eagles are on a tear right now. 7 straight wins off the back of Saquon. No wonder Jalen Hurts is grinning. Final score: Eagles 37, Rams 20.
It's just winning football, isn't it? Really good defense, really good running game. Everything else takes care of itself. It's
boring. We should go back to the Broncos game.
So glad we're off that game.
I'm enjoying this nice little divisional loss for the Rams. Well,
yeah,
it wasn't a divisional game, but
a loss for the Rams.
Loss for the Rams. You know what I meant.
The Rams are fine. The Rams are just they just don't have that strength in depth and that you really need. And when you've got someone that's playing at the level that Barkley's playing at the minute, you can go all out to stop him, but at the end of the day, you're going to get beat. I mean, the fact that he ran for 250 yards and had some catches for some other yards as well.
255. Another 47
running, was it?
255 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns, another 47 receiving on 4 catches for 4 targets.
Yeah. So any player that in the NFL gets a 300-yard game, it's just one of them.
I mean, that's Ashton Genty levels, that is.
Yeah, except in a proper division. He's on pace for over 2,000 yards this season. He's already got 10 touchdowns, but Hurts has 11. So it should be close to the 20 touchdowns already. I mean, those tush pushes have stolen at least 8 touchdowns off his resume.
Let's also not forget that Kyren Williams is having a really, really good season quietly as well.
Yeah.
He's only 1 touchdown off Saquon Barkley.
He's got a touchdown in each of his first 8 games or something, didn't he, Kyren Williams? But
he's a very good running back. But we were just talking about Saquon Barkley potentially being the MVP. He's had a bigger impact than CMC did for the 49ers when he moved to him mid-season.
I would agree with that. I think he's definitely had a bigger impact. I would have Barkley. I think your MVP race right now should be Barkley, Henry, Allen, and
Jackson.
Burrow. You can start thinking about throwing Jackson in there, but he won it last year. There's no need for him to win it again this year.
Well,
in fact, no, actually, you can throw Jackson in there because I think his numbers are better this year than they were last year when he won it.
Yeah. It was a down year last year.
Yeah, everything was a bit off last year, but I don't subscribe, and I know the NFL won't give it to a running back, but I think Adrian Peterson's the last one that won it, and that must have been about 2010, 2011, the last non-quarterback. So it's about time we had someone other than a quarterback win it. I think the impact Derrick Henry's had in Baltimore and the impact that Saquon Barkley's had for the Eagles, especially, puts those two kind of head and shoulders from anybody else other than the quarterbacks. But whether you would actually do it, I don't know. I probably would. I personally would give it to one of the running backs, and we'll see where they all end up at the end of the season. Now, the 2,000-yard thing is big. It hasn't been done in a while. But whether Barkley gets there, we'll have to wait and see, won't we? But he's got every chance to.
In this conversation, if we're going down the Henry Barkley route, I'd edge it towards Barkley on the basis that at the start of the season, when the Eagles weren't quite firing, and they've massively turned it around after their bye week. Defense is coming up and making huge plays when it needs to, but when they were struggling, Barkley was still making things happen and still moving the chains and getting the scores in. So
and I think the other thing to point out is that the Eagles seem to trust Barkley more than the Ravens do with Henry. The Ravens still will occasionally slip into that, oh no, we must make Lamar run, blah, 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 try and do something different to avoid it. Whereas the Eagles go, we're going to run Barkley. We know we're going to run Barkley, and we're just going to give it to him, and he's going to do it anyway.
You can try and stop him. You won't stop
Yeah,
him.
exactly. You can't stop him. We know you can't stop him, so we're not going to change it. Whereas the Ravens tend to just move away occasionally from giving the ball to Henry. But yeah, I think you're right. I think, Saquon Barkley is. I mean, how mad must the Giants be watching him? It's insane. They literally could have just offered him a contract and he would have signed it, but they turned around and said, "No, no, you can go and test free agency, and then we'll see if we want to match it." And at that point, it's like, "Well, I'm gone then."
Yeah,
and then the GM said, "You promise you'll come back to us and tell us?" And he was like, "What?" It's like, "You promise?" He's like,
Yeah.
"No, we'll see what happens." You were right. The last time it happened was 2020. That was Derrick Henry. Before that, it was 2012 with Adrian Peterson, and 2009 Chris Johnson.
Yeah,
so yeah, it's been a while.
I think what we need to see is Barkley go up against Henry as soon as possible. Maybe next week.
Maybe even this week. That would be an
that'd be nice,
game, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that'd be good for the schedules to do. Let's move on to the Cardinals at the Seahawks. 2 division wins in a row for the Seahawks. Top of the NFC West. Maybe they are in the contention after all. Cardinals have a couple of these no turn-up days this season, but this is the first time they were held to single-digit points. Jackson Smith-Njigba got himself another touchdown and 77 yards on 6 catches. Kyler got a pick 6 by Kobe Bryant, and apart from Trey McBride, the Cardinals seemed utterly ineffective. Final score was the Cardinals 6, Seahawks 16.
Oh, it feels good to be at the top, I tell you.
Yes. Well deserved.
Lovely view. Oh no, you got to take with a pinch of salt. This division is shocking this year. It is an absolute dire state. But anyway, no, it was good. It was a good performance from us. I think as much as the defense, there was still moments where you're watching it and you're going, how are we? I mean, McBride, we just couldn't contain whatsoever. And he just sort of had a free pass, was roaming around doing what he wanted to do, and we couldn't really stop him in any way. There was other moments where there's deep balls, still susceptible to the run, but then at the same time, there's huge plays when we're making big stops. They weren't successful in the red zone, and as much as I'd like to say the defense is putting it together, I think there was a big element of the Cardinals' offense just not working. They weren't clicking for whatever reason. But I'm going to go down the more positive defense route. I thought Witherspoon was absolutely phenomenal, particularly instrumental in forcing Murray into that pick 6, and then tracking Kobe Bryant and coming up with a block on sort of the 5 sort of 10-yard line, just to keep things free. So that was huge from him. Offensive line is still not sure on it. We're still allowing too many pressures. Junior's getting sacked far too often. He is now starting to. There's a few plays he's able to extend. There's a few times when he's out of the pocket and he'll run and he'll move the chains and sorts of keeps the drive going. But then you also have other times when Gino gets pressured and then does something absolutely ridiculous, like stumbling backwards, running out of bounds, and decides to just lob the ball. And of course, it's going to get picked off. So it's always frustrating watching him, because when he plays well, he does well and the system works. When he doesn't and his mind's wherever, off with the fairies, we then lose the ball and then the defense has to come out and make plays. And that's where we really struggled, is if the defense is on the field for too long, they just get tired, and they start picking us off. But I think overall, a good performance, but there's still a lot of work needed to push the team forward. But we're top of the division, so I can't complain.
The Cardinals do have this habit of when James Conner doesn't play well, they don't play well. Because I think A lot of the time, his power run really helps them out in key spots. And this week, he was 7 attempts for 8 yards. I mean, the only running back who did worse this week was probably Jamal Williams. Um, so it's difficult to sort of draw any more meaningful conclusions than that. He has not been great this season. I think he's got 700 odd yards, but he's got 3 games or 4 games where he got over 100. So he's either boom or bust. And if he doesn't play well, then he absolutely, you know, there is almost no backup for the Cards, and they couldn't get a running game going in this game whatsoever. And it just made it a little bit easier for Seattle.
Yeah, I think that comes down to Ernest Jones at linebacker and Tyrese Knight. I think there have been some good improvements there. They certainly look a bit more kind of Roquan Smith clone for McDonald, obviously from his time in Baltimore. They seem to be doing a lot more running around the place from side to side. I thought I was pretty impressed with both of those actually in that game. Yeah. I think the problem you've got with Geno is that obviously he's a bit too long in the tooth now to learn too many new tricks. So what you've got is what you've got. You know what I mean? Like, not expecting too much more improvement from Geno. He's obviously got better from when he came into the league, but this is kind of his peak, I'm guessing. So,
this is
now have to be baked in. So whatever he's doing wrong, you'll have to handle it.
Factor into the game plan. Yeah,
it's a hard situation Seattle are in because he's too good to get rid of, but he's not really going to take you anywhere. So
we're sort of stuck in this little bit limbo phase. I do think that the focus, particularly from McDonald, is going to be on the defense, obviously being that more defensive minded and the state of the defense was in when he took over. I think his major concern is going to be getting that sorted and becoming a team that's really difficult to break down. Because ultimately, if we are really difficult to get through and put points against, then having Geno is more than enough, because if we're only conceding single digits or 2 scores, Geno can go and put up 3 scores relatively easily. Yes, he'll throw some picks in there, but he could do that, particularly with the offensive weapons. Which is why I think that's going to be the focus rather than.
He can, but then when you get through to the playoffs, that's not going to cut it, because every team in the playoffs can score points, and it's very rare that teams can hold other playoff teams to single-digit points. That I think is where the issue is.
No, I agree.
You're absolutely right. But, Geno can make you a playoff team.
I think when we're talking longer term and when we want to go for a long, deep run in the playoffs, then absolutely, I think we need big changes at quarterback with someone that can put the team on his back if needs be, and then couple that with a mighty strong defense.
All I heard then was that Geno can't give it to you long and deep. That's all I heard then. Sorry, you lost me.
We're moving on.
We're just getting to the good bit.
Yeah, we're moving on. Let's do some paddlings, boys. Let's do the 49ers at the Packers. No Brock Purdy, no Trent Williams, no Nick Bosa. No real competition here for a win for Green Bay. The Packers were up by 3 touchdowns by the time the Niners had run 6 offensive plays. Brandon Allen did get 1 touchdown before halftime to George Kittle, but the Niners were never in this game. McCaffrey was held to just 68 scrimmage yards and the fumble as the Packers turned the screw. Final score was the 49ers 10, Packers 38.
It's a paddling.
Can I be slightly controversial? Baby. Can I be slightly controversial? I think the Packers got beat up. I think the 49ers got beat up. The 49ers got beat up by a young team. I think the 49ers were, in this game, soft.
Yeah.
I think they got routed, beat up, and if the Packers really wanted to, they could have done a real number on them. And I know that some players weren't playing in this game and that they were losing some of their stars. I get that, but guess what? A lot of teams are. This reminded me of the Cowboys earlier on in the season, where it just didn't look like effort was on the agenda. I thought they were shocking, absolutely shocking.
Which I don't mind, for the record.
No, I agree. I think the Packers came out with the obvious intent of just running the ball down their throat, which they did. And like you said, they knew they could physically just win the lines of scrimmage and go from there.
But the Packers are a really young team, and this is
the thing, though, isn't it?
It's odd to see a young team do that.
Yeah, but we call them a young team, but you got to remember, majority of them have now been together for at least a season and a half. So
yeah, but they're all 24 years old.
But the coaching has to be taking hold. And you sprinkle in an old head like Josh Jacobs in there, who's used to dealing with Chiefs and being run into the line. And, how many times have you said in the past that, Josh Jacobs just ran it down the Broncos' throat and the Raiders won the game? That's exactly what the Packers did here. The 49ers just had no answer. Yes, they didn't have Purdy and so on and so forth, but they've got enough veteran players on that team. I mean, this isn't just a Green Bay thing. This has been happening the last few weeks. You've had arguments on the sidelines. You've had, why Jordan Mason isn't getting the ball at all now, just because McCaffrey's back, I don't understand. I mean, McCaffrey himself isn't really pulling up daisies, is he? He's what, 31 yards in this game? You might as well have Mason in there, because at least he was explosive and making things happen. The receiving core, Kittle's clearly not the player that he used to be.
I reckon they're really regretting that Ayuk contract now.
I think they have to be.
Yeah,
I think they
should let him go, shouldn't they?
Got themselves backed into a corner and should have just said off you go rather than chucking more money at him. But the 49ers, to come back to the 49ers and their division that you were saying a minute ago, Finn, with the Seahawks, you're in a bit of a nuts division in that everyone seems to be beating everybody, and you're still at that point where if you can string 2 or 3 wins together, it'll make a huge difference. Now, the 49ers can still go and do that, but whether they will or not, I'm really not certain. It's interesting because, I mean, we all said at the start of the season that we thought they'd take a step back and wouldn't be as dominant as they have been for the last few years. But I don't think any of us really saw this level of poor play and, like you said, Dave, lack of effort, which is really kind of shining through.
The worst thing you can say about an NFL team is that they're soft. And that's what San Francisco looked in this game. They looked soft.
Out of the 4 teams in the NFC West, I think the 49ers got the worst schedule remaining, to be honest. Just strength of schedule for me. I'm just looking at it like, oh, geez.
You've got some tough games in there.
The key one could be the last game. I think they got the Cards last.
They do, yeah. In Arizona.
That could be a big old game.
Yeah. Let's move on to another paddling. Then let's do the Buccaneers at the Giants. And there was no Tommy DeVito bounce for the Giants at home. Red Zone caught the fans streaming from the stadium halfway through the 4th quarter, after the Giants failed to convert a 4th and 9. Devin Singletary's touchdown wasn't enough to lipstick to put on the pig of a team, as the Bucs enjoyed having Mike Evans back at wide receiver. 4 scores all on the ground for Tampa Bay saw the final score of the Bucs 30, Giants 7.
That's a paddling.
Giants are nothing.
You say they're unlucky?
Nothing.
Oh, I thought you said that unlucky. I thought you want drugs. Giants are terrible.
Someone was, because someone picked them last week, but
yeah.
There was a point which was made by, it was one of those shows on FS1 where you got 15 guys on there who've never played a snap in their life. But, and I say that's ironic, me saying that. The point that was made was really interesting is if you're a defender and you're playing on a very talented Giants team, and you're being sent the message of, why should you bother? The team's tanking. They've got Drew Lock in there. He's perfectly, he's a perfectly good backup. He's one of the better backups in the league, I'd say. But they say we're not gonna play him. We're gonna play the village idiot instead. So we're tanking. So why then should you put? Why then? See, that's only funny. That's only funny because of your hand gesture, which no one can see. So think Italian football in about 1997. So that's what you're thinking. A player who's just committed a foul and doesn't want a booking. If you're a defender and you're being asked to put your body on the line, you're not going to do it. All of a sudden, you've got a running back who's, 280, 290 pounds, running at your full pelt. You're in the open field and you got to take. You think, no, I'm not tackling him. I've got a contract coming up in the summer. No chance. So it's not really too much of a surprise that the rest of the team's down in tools. I would as well. That's it. That's all that needs to be said there, mate.
Good
Since
team
that playoff
win.
Since that playoff win for the Giants 2 years ago, they're 8-20.
Jesus Christ.
Ooh. Nice.
Let's do another paddling. Let's do the Detroit Lions at the Colts. classic great team beating mediocre team. Lions are now 15-6 on the road as they were up by 8 at half time thanks to a rushing scores from Montgomery and Gibbs. The Colts tried to hang with the Lions, mostly the defense frustrating the Lions' freight train and the offense failing to capitalize. But the Colts couldn't get it going, and the Lions moved to 10-1 and a 9-game win streak. The final score: Lions 24, Colts 6.
Ooh, you better believe that's a pattern.
I feel like the Lions got up to third gear in the second quarter and then just literally flipped it into neutral and just coasted the rest of the game.
Yeah.
No injuries.
Recovery mode.
No drama.
Yeah.
Limp home mode. That's all it was.
15-point lead, and let's just get it done and put to bed. Yeah.
No, they haven't done that before. They've turned the screw on other teams. Like the Cowboys, they just run up the score. So it's quite nice that they actually realise you don't have to do that every time.
It's a little bit of maturity, isn't it, showing through?
Yes.
You know, we're getting towards the business end of the season now. We need to possibly not be putting people in position to pick up silly injuries and things like that. So, yeah, I really don't know what to make of the Colts. I don't know if they're good, if they're bad, if they're mediocre, if they've got the right quarterback, the wrong quarterback. You know, they just don't have a lot of anything, to be honest. You know, Taylor's run game seems to be fits and spurts. Like you said, it's a good team beating a bad team. Not a bad team.
The thing is, the Colts have got a really good offensive line, like massively underrated.
Yeah, absolutely, but they do nothing with it.
The best thing about them in this game was that jersey helmet combo, which absolutely, I love a jersey helmet. That was top-notch game. The full color rush blue with the dark helmet. It was beautiful.
You say their offensive line is great, but I saw several plays where they got outfoxed by the Lions defense, pulling.
Yeah, but the Lions defense is awesome.
I think what this was, Punk, was just the worst week possible for the Colts to face up against a team like the Lions, because it's a guaranteed loss, basically. They had a chance to build some momentum, and they got hit by this. So it's going to be tough to get back to that momentum. But I think they are slowly putting stuff together. It's not a great team yet.
They are still only a couple of games behind the Texans, so it's not completely inconceivable that
they're a couple of drafts behind the Texans as well, really, in terms of the overall team.
True.
They've got some key pieces already sorted, but they've got much more they need to do, much more in terms of receivers and other outlets.
If you gave the Colts, this is a theoretical question without a real answer, but if you gave the Colts CJ Orlovsky, they would be
saying that.
pretty close to the Texans. I think the difference is the quarterback.
I think you need to give the Colts Tank Dell and Nico Collins. I don't think you need to give them Orlovsky.
I think you do.
Because I want to see what Richardson can do. I can't see what Richardson can do if he hasn't got decent receivers to throw to. And he hasn't really had a decent receiver to throw to the entire 2 years he's been there.
I mean, Pittman's okay. Alec Pierce is okay.
Well, I don't want an okay receiver. I want at least one receiver that is going to get double teamed some of the time.
Normally he doesn't get within 40 yards of them anyway, so... There was one particular throw on a 3rd and 3 in the fourth quarter. I'm just watching it now. He throws the ball, and if a landmine went off where the ball landed, no one would have even been partially injured, let alone actually hurt. So yeah, I think he needs a lot more time. He needs an off season where he's not injured, where he can really focus on development, and then let's judge him. Because now, as you say, he hasn't got any receivers, and he's got no meaningful run game to speak of.
Let's move on to one more paddling, and that was the Patriots at the Dolphins. This was unsurprising for New England. They have just 2 wins in Miami since 2013. They didn't get close to turning that stat around on Sunday, as the Dolphins continue to roll now that Tua is back driving the car. 2 passing touchdowns to Devon Achane, 1 for Johnny Smith, and 1 for Jalen Waddle, who also had 144 receiving yards. The Patriots got a touchdown back on a pitch and prayer by Drake May after the Dolphins had pulled their starters. The fumble for 6 by Christian Gonzalez also baked into the win. At that point, the final score was the Patriots 15, Dolphins 34.
Stop! He's already dead.
This was the same as the last game. Dolphins got up and then thought, here we are, nicely done. Let's go and put our feet up.
Yeah. They played the first 2 quarters and put the rest of it on sim. And just basically don't get injured. Just, I wish that I had gone for it, because then maybe I'd have won my fantasy matchup because I got Tyreek Hill in it, but that didn't happen. Yeah.
There is a scenario. I mean, all right, take away this game coming up because we played in cold weather and we know what two is like in cold weather.
Yeah.
But there is a scenario where the Dolphins could win the rest of their games. There's only really the Texans and 49ers in there that you would say, yeah, they could probably give them a game. So, and they've got the Jets twice. So there is still this opportunity whereby the Dolphins are going to sneak into the playoffs, despite having been absolutely woeful when Tua was out injured, which is quite interesting.
It's definitely not over for the Dolphins. They just
No,
got bum luck with Tua getting injured yet again.
Well, I don't think that was the
right
last.
they're
Sort
on.
of bring it upon themselves.
Yeah, better O-line would help. But yeah, poor Patriots. They really were bad. Those are the paddle-ins. You've got a couple of games left. Let's do the Chiefs at the Panthers. Congratulations to Kansas City, who continue to win despite allowing any old team to stay within striking distance of them. Was this the Chiefs playing mid, or the Panthers really turning a corner and being a real NFL team again? Not sure we'll know just yet, but the signs are encouraging for Carolina as Bryce Young is growing in confidence each week. He's also fixed a big issue from last season, and that was dealing with the blitz. Spag sent pressure on 40% of his snaps this game, but Bryce went 11 for 14, 423 yards and a touchdown against them. He's anticipating the throw window being open, and that was what we saw with him at Alabama. But we also always anticipate a Chiefs late win, typically by field goal. And guess what happened in this one? Final score was the Chiefs 30, Panthers 27.
I agree. I think it's very, very, very difficult to draw any conclusions off this game, but it might well be a turning point.
I thought Bryce Young had an incredible game.
I thought he was so much better than I've seen him before. So much better. He was anticipating throws. He was avoiding pressures. He wasn't rushing anything. He didn't throw any interceptions. I don't know what his passer rating or anything was, but he must have been up around 250 and a touchdown. It just looked like a good, solid, competent game from a competent quarterback, which is something we haven't said about Bryce Young. So maybe that couple of weeks benching was useful for him. Maybe he did learn something. I don't know. Maybe the team have just decided that they're going to rally round him a little bit and play for him. But yeah, I thought the Panthers played well here. I think the defense was good. It is the Chiefs after all. They do have this ability to, I don't know, just about do enough constantly, galling as it is. But I think the Panthers maybe not necessarily turned a corner, but maybe have given themselves a bit of impetus and a bit of confidence to go and play better for the last few games of the season.
Can I just say one thing you mentioned on rating? This is why sometimes I hate QBR and passer rating. His quarterback rating was the second lowest of the season in that game, but his passer rating was the highest of this season. It's absolutely ludicrous. I think this is the best game of his career. And the fact he's done it against Kansas means that you can add a little bit more credence to it.
Yeah, it's good defense. He wasn't being given anything. That's for certain.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think he did really well. As for Kansas, they win games they shouldn't. Who knows?
Yeah.
Need them to get another loss, don't they?
Find a way, don't they?
Hey, shall I say it? It doesn't matter what they do in the regular season now. For them,
not.
It's all about the playoffs. Let's hope they fall off a cliff.
Anyway, we've got one more game. That was the Monday night game of the Baltimore Ravens at the LA Chargers. Harbaugh Bowl goes to 3-0 for John Harbaugh over his little brother. Two of the better teams in the league. This was a good game to watch, and it was a relatively tight evening as the Chargers had some good performances from Herbert, McConkey, and Disley. But to beat the Ravens, you need everyone playing well, and Quentin Johnson in particular turned back into stone hands. 5 targets, 0 catches in big spots to kill drives or make it 9 impossible to win. J.K. Dobbins was also injured in the first half, while the Ravens were having no issues on the ground. Derrick Henry had 140 rushing yards, but no touchdown for the first time this season after a touchdown was scrubbed off by a penalty. Ravens joined the Steelers on 8 wins in the AFC North. Chargers are fighting for the Broncos for second in the West. Final score was the Ravens 30, Chargers 23.
I think the Ravens won all the key moments here. All the contested catches pretty much went for the Ravens. I was thinking, especially the fourth down touchdown that I think it was Andrews that caught in the end zone to make it.
Yep.
I think it was in the fourth quarter.
Yep.
is that kind of thing where the key moments kind of all went for the Ravens, which you kind of expect, considering that this Ravens team has been together doing its thing for how many years now, and this is really the first season for the Chargers. So I don't necessarily think it's a bad omen. The fact that they were able to hang with them is a good thing.
No, I think this was two good teams playing each other. I think if this was a playoff game, no one would complain about it. You're right. I think scoring right before the half, Rashad Bateman's touchdown, I think that was a big moment because that was the first time the Ravens really took the lead. And then it was just a case of just keeping their noses in front the entire way through the game. I think, like you said, the Mark Andrews catch was great. I did feel a little bit sorry for the Chargers. Well, I'm sorry for the Chargers. I was quite pleased that the Ravens defense seemed to turn up and be able to stop the run a little bit. It didn't really feel like the Chargers ever properly got their running game going, which is a big thing for that offense. So they I don't know if they got away from it just because they were behind, or whether it was just a case of the Ravens defense. I need to watch it again, see if the Ravens defense actually were better. But it felt like when I was watching it that the Ravens defense were better against the run than I've seen them in a long time. So maybe something's happened there.
On the final touchdown of the game, I think was probably one of the big plays. Justice Hill basically started on the right-hand side, so the open side of the quarterback, and there was 4 men lined up on the blind side for the Chargers, and Justice Hill, basically, 3 men sold for the inside, which I guarantee Harbaugh would be absolutely apoplectic about, and 1 man missed the tackle, and he ran in from 55 or something like that.
55 yards, yeah.
I mean, I guarantee something that won't happen again this season, because those 3 players would have got absolutely roasted. That was the one that they asked. But to have 3 of your 4 men, rush on the inside or sell themselves to the inside against the Ravens.
Yeah.
The one team who, even if you're playing in shotgun, let's be honest, it's still play action because of Lamar.
It wasn't Derrick Henry in the backfield.
No, Justice Hill. I mean, it doesn't matter. BJ Hill would have been able to miss those tackles. It makes no difference. So, yeah, no, but it's little things like that where guaranteed they won't be making those mistakes this time next season.
Let's hope so. Just very quickly, shout out to Cameron Dicker, whose 15 fantasy points got me a win in our league. Thank you very much, Cameron.
Oh, thanks. Great, Jim.
Congratulations. Yeah, I'm so glad you've added that.
Turned the frown upside down for me on a very bad week.
Aren't I playing you this week, Jim, actually, in fantasy?
Are you?
I think so.
So that means I lost to Hannah this week because of her 50 point
win for me.
Nothing's guaranteed in this life, mate.
I lost to Connor. Jim, you'll be very happy with this. I lost to Connor because I accidentally chose to play the Rams defense instead of the Steelers defense. And I wasn't able to change it because I didn't check it until Friday morning, by which time the Steelers had already played. So I had to stick with the Rams, and I lost by like 6 points. So yeah, well done, Connor. No hard feelings. To be fair, he's playing Summit. I ain't playing for Jack, so I'll let him have the win. Is it immoral to tank for the higher pick in fantasy? Because technically I want to cut all of my players and just go for zeros because I want the higher pick next year. I'll obviously be picking second because Jim will get the first overall pick again.
Jim always has the first overall pick.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. Jim doesn't.
It's part of the league rules, apparently.
Didn't even have it this year.
Bylaw or something.
This is ridiculous.
I'm going to tank for Tua, I think.
I want some power plays, please.
You can have some power plays, sir. Woo! Firstly, I forgot to do this during the conversation about the Eagles, but Brandon Graham and his torn triceps, he's out for the season. That could be his career. Fantastic defensive player for the Eagles. I hope he does come back for another season, but torn triceps is a tricky thing. Once you've done it once, you're very susceptible to doing it again. So meant to cover that during the Philly roundup, but all good. Mm-hmm. Love Brandon Graham, great player. Right,
longest as an Eagle, I think, isn't he?
Sorry,
he played the most 8 games as an Eagle.
Yes,
there's no Eagle with more.
16 years is it now straight? One team as well. Phenomenal.
Brilliant.
Hat-trick heroes just won this week. Josh Jacobs. We said about the smash mouth style of the Packers. So Josh Jacobs, well done, sir. Game ball to you. Honorary mentions. George Kittle's one-hand ball behind him, third quarter catch. Chig Okonkwo's legs flailing 70-yard TD catch where he ran out of steam just at the goal line for the Titans. Rashad Bateman and Lamar Jackson's telepathic behind the defender touchdown catch just before halftime versus the Chargers. And Saquon Barkley ripping the momentum and the feel-good factor out of the Rams stadium, especially as they'd had the 99 Rams on at halftime with his second half touchdown opener. Right, on to the plays. So there's 10:42 left in the fourth quarter, and you're already up 30-7. So you'd think it would be game management time and run out the clock. Well, clearly the Bucs wanted to hurt the Giants, as on 2nd and 7 from their own 5-yard line, Baker hands the ball off to Bucky Irving, who takes off left on a stretch play. A Giants linebacker grabs him at the line of scrimmage, but Bucky says, "Not today, thank you," sticks a big paw in his face and plants him on the ground. Passing the first down marker, he changes direction and cuts in towards the middle of the field. And there's no one around him. Getting as far as the 45, and then it happens. Even though his team is comfortably winning the game, Baker Mayfield has decided to choose the hard way in life and has been tracking Bucky all the way down the field. And as a defender grabs his arm, Baker uses the leverage and blocks for his running back, allowing him to get to the Giants' 40 before being pulled down. This isn't the first time we've had Baker in, and these last few weeks have seen him taking on all sorts, from holding Bosa with one arm to now throwing blocks when he doesn't need to. He is a true power player and therefore should live in the power plays.
Agreed.
Right, next up is a player who was a regular inclusion in this section over the last couple of years, but has faded into the background recently. As a running back being demoted to kick returner, it can't be much fun when your replacement is ripping up the league. So why not do something about it? Taking the Titans' opening kickoff, Dameon Pierce returns the ball up the middle, only to find a wall of blockers and tacklers in front of him. At the 25, pretty standard return so far. Well, it would be if Pierce didn't put his foot down, smash into that wall at full speed, and with his momentum slowing and a defender grabbing at him, he backs up, ducks to break the tackle, and sidesteps to his right where he finds a little daylight and some friendlier faces. Making use of those blockers, he bounces right again and takes off, finally getting caught and shoved out of bounds at the Titans' 25 to set the Texans up early. Has Dameon Pierce actually played this season as a running back? Because Joe Mixon has just kind of made that position his own.
Yeah, not really.
But this was just a timely reminder to the Texans coaching staff that Pierce is a player and is a dangerous runner and should be used more, in my humble opinion. Right, off to the beer game. We've had the miracle in the Meadowlands and the Minneapolis Miracle. Well, now it's time for the miracle in Maryland. Once again, you find yourself in a spot of bother, down 27-20 with only 33 seconds remaining. For your rookie quarterback, you need another miracle. And in Maryland, that's exactly what the Commanders got. Starting the drive on their own 14-yard line, Jaden Daniels sets up in shotgun, takes the snap. The Cowboys rush an ineffectual 3 and leave 8 sat in a deep zone coverage. Seeing this, Daniel releases the ball towards the right sideline, where somehow Terry McLaurin at the 40-yard line has found a soft spot and takes the catch easily before hitting the burners and leaving 4 Cowboys in his wake, making it the cleanest, untouched 86-yard touchdown you'll ever see. And if they hadn't missed the extra point and forgotten to defend the onside kick, I may still be a Commanders fan.
They just had to tackle him in bounds and the game was over.
Exactly. But the whole thing was so weird because they literally were 5 yards from him when he caught the ball, were 5 yards from him as he ran inside to the space, and then were 5 yards from him all the way down the sideline as well. Ridiculous. Dreadful defending. But right, here we go. Either video game engines are getting more realistic, watch out for Skynet, or it's a sign of the times that for the second time in only a few weeks, we're having to invoke the late, great John Madden's video game in this segment. Now, as a kick returner, it's fairly simple. Catch the ball and run as far as you can forwards before being tackled. Clearly, Turbo Cavonte Turpin thought that was too simple. Leading 20-17 and with 3:02 left on the clock, the Commanders kick off. Turbo misses the ball on the bounce at the 5 and retrieves it at the 1. Casually striding out to the 10, where he suddenly turns 90 degrees to his right. A Commander's defender goes with him, and as Turpin plants his left foot, he presses the circle button, PlayStation guy, on his controller and executes a wild spin that removes 5 defenders from his path as he makes it to the 15. From there, it's all about the turbo part of his name, cutting back towards the left and steaming untouched towards the end zone down the left sideline. One final thought for this week. I would love to see him and Tyreek in a straight race.
And Alan Hutton, of course.
And Alan Hutton.
Stop, no.
Get him off the field!
And that's your power plays for this week.
Can I add one power play in, if
You
that's
can add
okay?
anything you like.
Oh, here we go. Where's this
Lincoln-
Oh, we
going?
got anything in?
Lincoln to IoT Mariner. So this is one that you've seen, Punk. It was Air Force versus Nevada.
Oh, yeah.
And I know it's college, but bear with me. So quarterback throws the ball into the end zone. Lincoln to IoT Mariner, who is from Nevada, so he's playing against his home county, and throws himself about 5 yards out of play, and whilst in the air, throws it back into the end zone for one of his fellow defenders to catch the ball. So it's now an interception. The Muppet who catches the ball, though, steps out of the end zone. Instead of returning the ball at the 20, goes out of bounds at the 1. It's like, dude, what the hell are you doing? But bearing in mind that in college you only really need to keep 1 foot in bounds, he literally leaped right out of bounds. Jim, if you want a video of it to put it on Spotify for us, I can provide you with that. What an unbelievable play. I drafted him based purely on that. It was brilliant.
It was a great play. It would have made the power plays, but
it's in college, so it doesn't count.
Does not count.
Yeah. But it was so good.
I do want to give you all credit, though, this week. I was not bombarded on Sunday with put this Steeler play in, put that Steeler play in. Now, whether that's because the Steelers lost, I don't know.
You couldn't say anyway.
I think that's because all the messages came on Thursday. That's why.
Jim was awfully quiet this week about the games. Which
he was.
I can't think why.
He's ill. Leave him alone.
I am ill. I want to go and rest, but I can't. So, time for us to go. Thank you very much for sticking on it so long and for doing all the reviews. We'll be back with the preview for week 13 and Thanksgiving. But yeah, make sure you find us on the socials and especially on patreon.com/finaldown. All of our stuff's on there, including stuff that you have to go behind by being a member. So become a member. Why not? Don't cost you anything unless you want it to. Until next time.
Gifts don't hurt.
Yeah, Jim's lemsips don't pay for themselves.
They certainly don't. I'm talking
Just
of which,
do what I do and steal them from Co-op.
What a good tip. Anyway, until next week, I've been Jim, that's been Finn, that's been Never Dave, that's been Punk Raider, and thank you very much for listening.